Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Kevin Graham. It's something of an old school Acsom last night, Kev. It was the pairing of two old school European Cup winners. Celtic, of course, the first team from these Isles to win the European Cup back in '67. Aston Villa did it in 1982. We went down south. No one really gave us much of a chance. How would you sum the game up before we start looking at some of the specifics? How did you sum the game up as a whole?
Oh, it's very frustrating, eh? Overall, we were done in the second half because we didn't have depth and strength to handle that second half. Villa play blunt, direct, uncomplicated football, but they've got power, pace, and physicality that all these top teams have that we can't handle. And you saw that last night that we couldn't handle that in the second half at all. We couldn't handle it in the space of a minute and a half when we lost the two goals. And it's no surprise. What I was really we done some things well last night. We done some things not very well. I don't think we learned anything. I don't really think that we learned anything for what we need for going forward. It's frustrating, eh? I mean, you get in at 2 each at half time, and you're going, right, we're going to get an onslaught here. Then it's two horrible individual mistakes in the second half that gives them the two goals. We get a bit of justice with the penalty because it was never a penalty kick. I don't know what was going on there. We've got a long way to go where I want us to be, but whether we can get there or not is another different. When you look at the team that were playing last night, who are selling their second striker for £70 million. Had the boy that scored 2 goals last night with Watkins. He's had a £70 million bid for him by Arsenal, and we've just sold our best player at the club for £10 million to Rennes, who are in a relegation battle in League One. There is levels, but we competed. We did compete for a wee while, but it was just a wee bridge too far for us.
You know this, Kev, as you know, whenever I'm either at the game or doing a live event, obviously hosting the game, as we did last night at Barras Art and Design, I watch the game again in the morning, just to, because the emotion of it is removed because you don't know the outcome and everything else. And you try to analyse the performances and you ask yourself, what could we have done better? What did we do wrong on an individual basis that we could have avoided conceding the 4 goals? Where are we really in the great scheme of things in terms of European football? And what do we need to do to get better and to get to where we think we can be? We're realistic. I think we're really realistic when it comes to the level that any team in Scottish football can get to in European football, Kev. We're realistic in that respect. I think the example I used during the week was coming up against a team last season in Feyenoord, who we beat at home. They beat us away, albeit we had 2 red cards. And Arne Slot leaves them as manager, but they do so well. And they're sitting right in that bit, just underneath the top 8 places going into last night's fixtures, having not spent a great deal of money net, and you're looking at what they're doing to get that progress. Then they go out last night and get thumped 6-1. So it's not just Scottish football who are up against the mega money. And I always use this, Kev. I always use this example, right? And we'll get on to O'Hara and Cundy, a pair of mouthpieces. We'll get on to that pair. But when you hear all these guys down south talking about the Farmers League and, you're not playing St John's now and all this carry on, and they always try and link it into, this is what would happen if you came down. I mean, what a stupid argument that is, because if Celtic were to play in the English League or any other league, we would be playing by the same rules as everybody else. And what I mean by that is in terms of the financial element of it. We wouldn't go down with the Scottish finances. So my counter argument is always, every single team in England would last 2 weeks in Scottish football before they went bust. So that's the counter argument. No team in England would survive in Scottish football. Never mind Scottish teams surviving in English football. But we go down there last night, and that's always in the back of your mind because obviously they belittle the game. And within 4 minutes of the game last night, you're thinking to yourself, you're getting flashbacks for Dortmund, Kev. We've been here before. every single European campaign over the last God knows how long, there's a tanking in there. There's a tanking. And you're thinking last night, we're going to get another one. What I would say, the first thing, before we get into individual performances, good and bad, the first thing that we've got to give Celtic and Brendan Rodgers credit for is the character shown. The fact that we didn't crumble. That could have turned into a disaster last night. You come away from it, you're disappointed that we got beat, but it wasn't a disaster. It could have been after 5 minutes.
It could have been, and maybe that's how we're maybe not as down on the result as what we would have been because of the way that we came back into the game. And there's reasons in that second half why we faded, and it's quite obvious reasons why we faded in that second half. But also there was a lot of things that we did do well. I thought we pressed really well, and I thought we played out the press really well at spells. But there was times when we counter pressed and we had Villa pinned, and we just didn't have that physicality to get. We had them in bother, but we didn't have that physicality just to nick the ball and one and do that quick power and pace thing that Villa would do to us when they actually catch, when they've got you in the headlights. We had Villa a couple of times in the headlights, and we just haven't got that physicality. Just, right, we've got this ball now and we're opening the play up. But we got ourselves into really, really good positions with the press, and I was really quite impressed with the press and also the way that we played out from the back. Yes, we made mistakes. We did make mistakes, but the best teams in the world make mistakes trying to play that type of football. We kept our identity, and I also think what we did really, really well was we played the game in front of us, which we didn't do in Dortmund. We done it in Atalanta. We played the game that ended up in front of us. We did not go out in Bergamo to play the way that we played. We played the game that ended up being in front of us, and we done that last night. The second half was all down to the lack of fitness, strength, and depth in the squad. Our subs made no impact whatsoever and were pointless. Our subs were utterly pointless last night, and that was down to where we are with the squad at this precise moment in time. Without Carter Vickers, with Idah suspended, but you've also lost Kyogo. We're playing Yang last night, and we all know Yang is not good enough for Celtic. We all know that. Brendan treats him like the wee pet dog with 3 legs. Oh, bless him. He tries really hard. Then you bring on Palmer, who's got a buttock out the door, going to Greece. You're bringing on guys who contributed absolutely nothing last night. And that's where we are with the squad. The squad is weaker than now than what it was a week ago. And that is something that needs rectified in the next couple of days. And I'm sure we will get on to that. But we are weaker at this precise moment in time than what we were a week ago.
You know, this is a big thing you've got to caveat is the fact that we've gone into that game, Kev, and yes, Maeda is suspended. You couldn't have guessed that. You couldn't have predicted that, right? So I'm going to bring in a couple of points here. CCV is injured. You probably could have predicted that, right? You probably could have predicted that one,
but
right?
I'm sure he's fit enough to play.
I said this yesterday.
I'm sure he's fit enough to play. It was a choice by the manager not to play him.
Yeah, he felt something at training, said Brendan Rodgers. So we decided, that they weren't going
to take the risk.
Not to take the risk. This is the thing. And Carter Vickers spoke about his injury 3 weeks ago, I think it was, where he was talking about the fact that it's not 100%. He can still feel it when he's playing. He can still feel that dull pain. So it's not 100% at this moment in time, Kev. So we decided, you're right, we decided to take that risk because it is a risk if you take Carter Vickers out that defence, just like it's a risk if you take Callum McGregor out of the midfield, just like it would be a risk if Kasper Schmeichel never played last night. He's that important to the side and he was missing. Now, then you go into the players that we have decided to sell, knowing that we have one further Champions League game that we can't replace these two guys. Yes, we can bring in the youngsters, which we did for the bench, but we can't replace Kyogo for this game against Villa, and we can't replace Baye. Now, I know he's not been a massive part of the squad, Kev, but in terms
I forgot about Baye as well. He would have been another option last night.
Another option off the bench, because we will get on to Yang. I'm not going to turn this into an anti-Yang agenda here, right? But I watched it very carefully today in relation to some of the basics, mate. The basics of, watching the game. And it was incredible how often Rio Hatate was the guy who was pressing Aston Villa. Aston Villa,
Yes,
you
I
put
noticed that. I
Yeah.
noticed he was in the Kyogo furthest forward role quite a lot of the times.
And you know this, right? You know how, and I've actually heard of the methods of some coaches, Kev, where they actually tie. I think Arsenal did it. They tied players together for the offside rule back in the day, so all the defenders all moved at the same time. If you watch the game, it's almost as if Kun and Hatate are synchronised. They're pressing at the same time. Hatate was more noticeable because the goalie had the ball most of the time, right, on the press. Yang standing at the halfway line, mate, completely unaware. You know, the positional awareness was non-existent. It just was not evident. And I was looking at that thinking the naivety of that at this level is astonishing, Kev. So regardless of what you can do with the ball at your feet, the position awareness is non-existent at that point. And if you watch it time and time again, right, sometimes you can see Hatate looking over his left shoulder and balling at him to get in line with him and Kun, and he's nowhere near it. When he's got the ball at his feet, even he doesn't believe he's getting past the right wing, right back.
There was a few times where he did make the break, and you're going, "This is what we need at a level." You need. I'm going to mention these 3 Ps quite a lot today. You need pace, power, and physicality, and he hasn't got any of it. When you get to those moments where you're going, "Right, I'm on a 1-on-1 with this guy here. I'm going to need to get by him." I don't think Kun's had the breakout Champions League that we expected him to have after Leipzig, because I think he lacks the physicality to play against top sides. I think he's got the ability, but I don't think he's got that physicality where last night in the second half he went for one and the Villa defender just like swapped him away if he just wasn't there. And you're going, if you want to take that next step, mate, you're going to need to bulk and be able to go into that. It's a physicality, and Rodgers talks about it all the time, but it's very, very difficult to probably get that physicality and pace and the power to come to Scotland. Quinny mentioned the Newcastle midfield.
Yeah.
And I had a look at it after he mentioned it, and I'm like, you look at all the guys, they're all 6 foot, they're all powerful guys, they all can do everything. There's no a 6, there's no an 8, they're just 3 midfielders who can do that. I think we're kind of missing that. And I do think even when you look at Bruges were a big technical good side, and I do think we're missing muscle. I do really think we're now missing muscle and pace for us to make that next step. But where we are just now, I think we've proved we are a decent Europa League side, and you're going to go back at me. But when you have a look at the campaign as a whole, again, we're going to focus on last night. Games that we would have lost over the last 2 seasons, we never lost against teams who are on our level from the lesser leagues. We didn't lose those games, and they're the reason that we're sitting in the knockout stages just now. We've punched above our weight twice, Atalanta and Leipzig at home. Atalanta away with a draw and Leipzig at home, and the 2 defeats that we got. When you looked at it on the outset, you would, well, we probably should lose those games because of the resources, the leagues, and the physicality the teams have got. I think we're where we're meant to be with the squad where we are. But I would have loved to have had a go at Villa last night with Cameron Carter-Vickers and Idah and Kyogo on that pitch. I would have loved to have done that. Even just the option for the wee James to come off the bench and stuff like that as well. Would have loved that. I would have loved to have done that. The second half turned out in a bit of a non-event as soon as they scored the third. And the subs were just, the subs were on.
And that was a frustration with the substitutes. I'm going to get onto this because we've kind of discussed that a wee bit this morning, Kev, in relation to my thinking behind that as well. But you know what you're saying there, I don't disagree with it. I'll always disagree with the Europa League comment because we've been disagreeing for 8 years in relation to that. Not as vehemently as the Robbie Keane discussion yesterday. But yesterday, yes, we did actually have someone approach Lawrence Conley at a live event and pull him up about his comments in relation to Robbie Keane. So there you go. It's not just me that disagreed with him. And the first thing that Jim Orr said as he walked into the venue last night, Kev, was, "Where's my couch?" Which is turning into something of a motto for Jim on European nights. But in relation to that, right, you're saying there about, I'd love to have seen it with Kyogo, and I would have loved to have seen it with CCV, etc., Maida. Let's look ahead and think, right, okay, Kyogo's gone. I'd love to see it with CCV, Maida, Jota, and Tierney. And the reason I'm throwing that in is because in terms of progress, I'm at the point at the moment where we go back to transfer window 1. Disaster. Under Brendan Rodgers. Disaster of a transfer window. I mean, you just got to look at 2 of the guys that have came up in conversation so far, Yang and Palmer. The other guy sitting on the bench, Nawrocki, he's played 9 minutes. Most of the other boys are away. Bernardo's probably the only survivor from that transfer window, that's going to give us anything. And then you go into the next transfer window, Idah and Kuhn. Well, Kuhn, he wasn't at his best last night, but in terms of a season so far, he's been brilliant.
He's been great. He has been great, but we've been pinning our hopes on him in the Champions League games. And since Leipzig, I don't think he's had that breakout game. And he wasn't poor last night, but there's just it's probably a growth thing. That's why I don't reckon his time to leave is now.
No,
I still think he's got another season, another hopefully Champions League in him here, because he didn't quite make that wee step up. And I think that's more to do with physicality, because he's got the pace.
He's got to develop. He's got to develop
that.
But the thing is, he might get the shock, Kev. He might get the shock in that, here's my level. I've played well for Celtic for 6 months and in Champions League. And maybe in his mind, he's looking at some of the guys that have gone before him, and he's thinking, I'm going to get that big move. You're nowhere near it at the moment, Kuhn. You're having a great season domestically. But in order for you to make that step up, Matt O'Reilly was playing well domestically, Kev, but the breakout season that you're talking about, that only happened last season for Matt O'Reilly. Now, so if you look at that, the Kuhn and Idah thing, they've become pivotal members of the team. And then you look at the summer transfer window just gone, and you look at the players who all started last night: Kasper Schmeichel, Austin Trusty, Arne Engels, and Big Idah, who obviously came in as a permanent. And you start to see that Rodgers is bringing in players every transfer window who are starters. And this is a difference, Kev. Yeah? There's going to be a couple guys here and there that will be kind of squad players or project players, but he's bringing in these starters, and the starters, other than Kuhn from the ones that I've mentioned there, are all physical players. But Engels, I think, hasn't yet attained the physicality that you require for this level of football. I think he's got it. He's got the height, etc. But he's got to get stronger. He was brushed off the ball too often last night.
He should be hanging his head in shame on that third goal last night. It's an 80-20 ball in his favour, and he bounces off John McGinn. It is a dreadful for a guy who's 6 foot, maybe 11 and a half stone, to get brushed off like that. When 80-20, he's in front of the guy. He's in front of McGinn. And it's dreadful. It's utterly dreadful. Also, we've completely lost shape at that point, because Liam Scales decided that he wants to go and play press 25 yards for the Aston Villa goal. The whole shapes went. And no, but that goal is one of the most horrific I've seen us lose in European football, due to Scales and Engels, and more Engels. Engels this morning should actually be in the gym and on the protein shakes and all that. He should be embarrassed what John McGinn done to him. Embarrassed.
That wasn't great, but in terms of the second goal, his part that he played in the second goal was phenomenal. He
has got a physical nature. He had a great ding dong with Tielemans. He has got that physicality, but maybe it was a bit naivety. And McGinn's a very, very experienced player.
Wily old operator.
But it's an 80-20. It's not a 50-50. It's an 80-20. You should be getting that. It's maybe a wee bit of lack of experience. So hopefully he learns from it. He needs to learn for it. He needs to actually learn for it. Look at Big Trusty last night. How immense was Austin Trusty in that duel with Ollie Watkins?
Right, but this is
brilliant.
This is why I'm not worried about Engels, because we've seen Austin Trusty bullied by Simon Murray this season. Yet last night, Kev, chalk and cheese. So it's about being faced with a situation that you can learn from and improve from. And I think you're right. Trusty improved from that position, if you like. And I think Engels has got it in him to be stronger. He's got the physical attributes, but he needs to be stronger and less naive.
I think what you're looking for in the midfield is you need another Engels type guy, but maybe even bigger. The fact is, Atati's 5'10" and Callum McGregor's maybe 5'8", 5'9". We have to have a look at a succession plan for Callum McGregor. We need that nasty guy in there to do the control and feature, whatever it is. Callum McGregor's absolutely fantastic. He can stand up, but if we want to go forward, we need athletes. We do need athletes. That athleticism's got to come as being a football player as well. And I think Engels has got it. Trusty's actually got it. You have a look at the Norwegian winger, Sondre will call him now, even though Tony in the comments actually put in yesterday how to say his second name, and I think it's Oriariete or something like that.
Don't say Ayeti. Don't say Ayeti.
So he's 6 foot. The Danish striker that we're looking at as well, he's anything for 5'7" to 6'1" according to Google. So hopefully 6'1". We need to get that height and physicality and guys that have got that pace and power. For me, I'm not looking at Villa because we can't compete with a Villa and a Dortmund. I'm having a look at a Bruges, and you saw the physicality that they had, and you're going, right, we need that, but you need to combine that with playing football. I'm a bit worried about the fact is we think I'm not worried, but you look at Jota, he's turned up. No, doesn't he look fit? He looks like he's spent a year in an Israeli jail. Hasn't had any food for a wee while. And again, he's going to need to. We're going to need to take our time with him. We are really, and I think he's admitted that himself. But he's got the skill, and you've seen it before. And I think it's just about building up that physicality when we come to nights like that. We come to nights like last night. It's also making games against your young boys, your Zagrebs, like we've done this season, ones that we do not lose, which we've done over the last 2 seasons. We eventually want to turn those games into, doesn't matter if it's home and away, it's like a 60-40, or at home it's a 70-30, away from home it's a 60-40, or a minimum of 50-50. That when we're getting to the teams for these lesser leagues, they didn't want to be playing us because I think we've been a soft touch over the last couple of years in Europe. The fact that we haven't lost a game at home this season is massive for us. Absolutely massive.
The biggest frustration has been the teams that you have rightly said we should be getting results against. It wasn't even, games against PSG or Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, teams that have absolutely hammered us, Borussia Dortmund. That's not the teams that have been frustrating us, Kev. The teams that frustrated me are the ones where you're thinking we should be beating them. And there's been occasions like that every single season. This season, you rightly say, we have not been beaten by that level of football team. And in actual fact, you're looking at Brugge and thinking, we probably should have won that. Carter Vickers doesn't do that. 99 times out of 100, he doesn't do that. He doesn't score OGs like that, but he did that night. So that's a game that, with a few more tweaks, we're going to win a game like that. Going over to Croatia, we're going to win a game like that with a wee bit extra quality. So I'm going to look at the team last night. We're going to be adding some of the names that you've mentioned, one of which, according to Shabs, is Oriaseta, not Ayeti. Very quick to come in.
I can't have that at the end there. I couldn't remember.
Now, this one here, Bora Boy says, calm down, Kev, 60-40 at best, and McGinn's arse is his biggest strength. Incidentally, right, John McGinn is 1.78 in height, and Callum McGregor is 1.78 in height. Yet, in terms of physicality, you know what I mean? You look at McGinn, you think to yourself, right, who's winning a 50-50? Who's winning a 50-50 in that duel? I know who my money would be on. Anyway, good.
Right, maybe I was a wee bit over dramatic when I says it was 80-20, but even at 60-40, you should still be winning that ball. You should still be winning that ball. And I do know that, as you say, if you look at the physicality of John McGinn, mean, you have a look at what we always point to was the physicality of Kieran Tierney. Between Dyler then coming in with Rodgers, his physicality completely changed.
Look at Christie down south now, Kev.
Aye.
Skinny laddie, he goes to Aberdeen, he comes back, he's put on about a stone and a half of absolute muscle. His career has never been the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that transformation you're looking at, isn't it? You're looking at a player and thinking, right, you've got the skills, maybe have the pace, but it's about power now. And who were we talking to recently? I think it was John Collins, actually. And we were talking about wingers, talking about Kuhn at the time. And I mentioned the fact that there were certain elements of the game and that certain stylistic elements of his game that reminded me of Paddy Roberts. And Collins said, you know, Roberts, there was something missing for his game that means he will never be a top player. And he was talking about the strength running with power. He goes, he never ever had that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've not got it, you're not going to do it at the top level. So, you know, this is what you're talking about, Kev. You've got guys with technical ability. You know, technically they're very, very good, sound players. But there's an added element when you get to the Champions League. And it is that power and that strength, as well as the physicality that Engels has already got. He needs to be stronger. He needs to be more powerful. So we need to add that to these guys' games. But they do have it in their locker.
And I'm not talking about turning us into a better version of St Mirren or somebody like, because you look at St Mirren, they've got loads of big players, and even Rangers. Rangers have got loads of tall, quite physical, imposing players. They've got to have that technical ability as well, and that costs money. And you look at the boys that we're being linked with. You're hoping they are a step up, because they do seem to be a step up. I mean, we're competing with the Norwegian winger. He's interested in the Red Bull Salzburg and a couple of other teams in Germany. The Danish striker, again, teams in Germany interested in him, mid-table teams in Germany. So that's who we're now competing with. And we're not competing with guys who are I mean, I'll always go back to, can you remember who we signed Bio for? Who did we sign Bio from? I mean, we're now competing with like clubs who have got ambitions in top 5 leagues. And that is where we're going to be. And that costs a lot of money. That costs that. But you look at last night, Narovsky didn't even get anywhere near. You bring on Dane Murray. Now, 3 weeks ago, Dane Murray was getting the run around against Raith Rovers. And the fourth goal last night is down to Murray no realising the pace of the game. When that ball goes back to him, you can see him adjusting his body, and he's got his body shape all wrong, but he doesn't realise how quick the guy is coming in.
You do not have the time to do that. No. The thing with that, I want to talk about the fact that we brought on Murray and Cummings and my take on it. Before I do that, some brilliant comments coming through, Kev. Absolutely tremendous. We need to talk about Idah and his performance as well. And there is some lack of quality within the Celtic side. We'll look at the side, but we're also going to be looking at the fact that we've already got a deal done, possibly two, and there's a few others in the pipeline, and how they will affect Celtic's side going into the playoff. And of course, we'll be talking about that mouth-watering playoff as well. Paddy Lavery, mouth-watering playoff.
Me and Jim are going to DFS. We're going to make sure there's
You're
profits.
watching it. You're watching it for DFS, the two of you. Paddy Lavery, afternoon all. Always an absolute pleasure, Paddy, to see you in the comments section. Magnet67 says, I thought we looked spooked as soon as Villa got possession of the ball after a decent 90 seconds play to start. Right. I was looking at this, right, because I know that Brendan Rodgers spoke about that after the game. He said, we started well. And I'm like, how did we start well? We were 2-0 down after 4 minutes. So I looked at the first 4 minutes this morning, Kev. And for the first minute of that, we've got the ball, right? We've got possession of the ball. We kick off. We've got possession of the ball for 1 minute. Aston Villa do not touch the ball. First touch of the ball they've got is a throw-in. Now, if you're not really paying attention, last night, I'm not analysing the game, just watching it for the enjoyment of it. You're looking at McGregor going, what a poor pass that is, and he gives the ball away because it goes out the park. However, and by the way, we'll come to Callum McGregor. There's loads of comments coming in about the captain. Yang, again, standing far, far too back in the park. He's not up with play. McGregor's playing the ball where Idah needs to be, and Idah would be, and Yang standing 20 yards behind that. And the ball goes out the park. So straight away, I'm looking at that going, right, that's the quality, Kev, that You can't play a bad pass in the first minute and give away possession against Aston Villa. We gave away possession, and then obviously Aston Villa at that point, we've got a situation where they can keep the ball, right? And they're keeping the ball not just in an attacking sense, but in defence. And we're not pressing them high enough. Rio Atati's the only guy that's doing it. Yang's languishing 20 yards behind him. He's getting balled at by Rio Atati at this point. And to the point where there's a moment actually in the second minute before Aston Villa scored where Hatati's got the ball. He's looked up. Kuhn's got two men on him, so he's not your out ball. Your out ball is normally Maeda, right? And Rio's looking for him. Yang's nowhere. He's nowhere. He doesn't make the run because he's too concerned with straying offside, right? So he doesn't make the run. Rio Atati delays it, and by the time Rio plays it, Yang doesn't make the run, and the ball goes out for a by kick. So the first 2 minutes of play, you're thinking two bad passes by McGregor and Rio. But actually, when you look at it a wee bit closer, Kev, it's the runs or lack of from Yang. So they're used to a guy like Maeda down the left wing. We're going to have Jota down that left wing. Tiny, tiny wee margins, right? But in the first 2 minutes of play, what follows that is two quick goals by Aston Villa. So you're thinking to yourself, right, 5-10 minutes into the game, you're looking at Celtic, we're in a rhythm now, right? So if we've not let in the two quick fire goals, or if we've kept possession those two times, then we're in a game. So it's just tiny wee margins at times, Kev. You cannot give away cheap possession at that level because they will punish you. The quality they've got, if you're a masochist and you watch the Borussia Dortmund game back, look at the quality of the finishing, Kev. Normally, you can give their chances. 99% of the time in Scotland, you can give their chances away and they're not scoring them. Borussia Dortmund have got the quality. Aston Villa last night had the quality. I was delighted with the test of character because I think we came through that. And that leads us on to Adam Idah. Now, Adam Idah has been getting pelters from some quarters.
Before we go into Idah, Paul, like you talk about the first goal. I think the sorry, somebody's just trying to phone me. I think the problem that we had was right away. Alistair Johnson spooked. He goes into the middle of the park chasing somebody, and when that ball, it's a quick switch, and their power and pace. You can see Johnson going, "What's happened here?" It's that quick switch that we didn't quite have when we press like that. That I get, especially against Villa. That's the kind of wee moment I'm talking about. They got that ball back and bump, it's away. We got that ball back and we're not quick enough, we're not physical enough to get that. And Johnson was completely exposed at that point. Mm-hmm. I thought Johnson had a poor game last night. I thought he had a really, really tough time. And for one of the most physical guys in our team, he looked weak last night for long periods. But again, I'm going to put that down more to form. I don't think he's ever been the same since he's came back for the injury. I think he's maybe running at 70-80%.
He took a dull one in 8 minutes as well, Kev, because I remember, like, just so everybody knows, last night after the being in Glasgow watching the game, I've come home to 220 messages, right? And it's all Acsom people, Kev, who are, honestly, if you're talking about like a roller coaster of emotions, right? You've got people writing everything off within 10 minutes. And then there's the high Idah scoring the 2 goals. And then there's another drop. And I'm reading through them, actually going, wow, I might just play this. I might just play this tomorrow on the bulletin. This shows you what happened in the game.
I must admit, I retain the right to disown the messages I sent between 4 and 5 minutes of that game last night.
But I've screenshotted them. But one of the things you did mention during that tirade was the poor performance of AJ. But when I was watching the game, I didn't see it last night. I did not see Alistair Johnson having a bad game. So I watched that a wee bit closer the day. He did take a dull one in 8 minutes, right on the shin, right? And he was down for a spell. And I thought to myself, has that affected him a wee bit? Maybe. The goal that you're talking about, absolutely. But I don't think Kuhn helps him either. I think
I think the team's completely surprised by the quickness. They go, "Bum, we've got that opportunity," and they didn't handle the power of the transition. Mm-hmm. I think it spooked them completely that they didn't realise. They would. You know what you're going to face, but it's not until you're standing in the face that you go, "Jesus, this is what's just happened here."
It's the pace of it, the power. You're right. It's a different level, and I'm guessing that when they're doing the video analysis, not only will they look at, right, who should have picked the guy up? McGregor was slow to react. Trusty was actually slow to react. Who should have picked him up? Right, where could we have won the ball? Johnston and Kuhn could have done better there. Let's go further up the park. When Aston Villa actually break from defence, out the 3 players up there, because Kuhn's up there with Rio, who's no pressing? Yang. Yang's still no press. And the guy who's no pressing is the boy who starts with the entire move starts with him. So you can go right back 3 levels, Kev. Yes, Johnson should do better. McGregor should follow the man, all this kind of stuff. But I think Celtic will be analysing what could we have done to prevent the attack from starting.
It's the same with the third goal. What they'll actually be analysing is the shape of the team at that point where the ball is, and they go, what are we actually doing? Yep. There'll probably be about 5 or 6 guys getting pulled up for that goal gun. What he's actually doing. Where are you? Where you should be when the ball's in that bit of the field. Scalesy, what are you doing there? Callum, what are you doing there? There'll be a whole load of it because a lot of these things is all down to muscle memory. They all know. I mean,
you're right. They'll find themselves in the right position.
Aye,
you're right.
Because they've been drilled that many times. And if they did their homework every night and read Rodgers' PowerPoint that he gave them up when he came back, I loved that. I loved that McGregor told us that Rodgers came in and done a PowerPoint presentation and gave them a binded copy of it to take away and read. I love that. That's you came with Jotter's reading the new.
Is that like the dossier? Is that like the dossier that was handed to the incoming manager after Rodgers left first time round? It ended up in a bucket in Lennox.
Yes.
Similar, right?
So they'll be when they're reviewing that. Even though I've been hard on Engels for it, Engels only be the only one that's getting. You have to be stronger there. There'll be a whole 5 or 6 of them going, what are you actually doing?
Definitely.
That's the level that we should be at.
You've got to, Kev, 100%. And you've got to cut out the mistakes before they happen almost, like you say. I mean, right, we're not pressing high enough initially, and then Villa don't have an attack. And then you can start looking at the positional play, which was really poor.
You look at the second goal as well. I think it's a really bad ball with Schmeichel that gives away possession. But I bet you when they review that, there'll be about 4 or 5 of the outfield players will get called. Where are yous? That's the right ball, but yous are not there.
Right.
There will be a.
That's a great point, right? Because it happened so quickly after the first goal. You don't see Celtic kicking off. So you're asking yourself, right, when did we lose possession? We had the ball here. When did we lose possession? So the furthest back I can find in terms of footage that was available, Kev, is a moment on the other side of the park. So we're at the left back area, and Taylor and Rio lose the ball. So Taylor's in possession of the ball at this point. I don't know why we're pinned into our own corner flag at this stage because we kicked off, right? But anyway, we find ourselves there, and I'm not sure what's happened before because I can't find the footage because it's the celebrations getting rerun, etc. So Taylor's got the ball, not quite at the corner flag, and he plays it to Rio, and Rio loses it. The press is so high up from Villa. Rio loses the ball. Taylor tracks back and does a slide tackle and slide tackles the ball back to Schmeichel. And that's where we see it. We see Schmeichel with the ball. But we've lost the ball cheaply. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden Schmeichel's got it. He shouldn't have it. It should be up the left wing. But it's not. And that you're right. And then Schmeichel plays that ball out. We need to be it's actually Idah needs to be stronger when that ball drops to him. He loses it. And Villa are 2-0 up before you know it. And that leads us on to Idah. But I'm going to bring in some more of these. You done it right. Here we go. Paul McLean. After Dortmund, who thought we'd get this far? Success regardless of last night's result. With a seriously weakened team, we need to talk CCV, and we will. We will talk CCV. Absolutely. Jay Conley, Jay Larkin, afternoon all. So we have the game to analyse and the campaign to review. Absolutely. And
it's been a great campaign. It's been a good campaign. We deserve to be where we are.
We're almost in February and we're still in Europe.
It's been a great campaign.
Yeah. The morning after the night before, just feeling proud considering the key players missing and the quality we played against. Hail, hail, says Barry O'Sullivan. Hopefully everybody down there, Celtic-minded people down there got up safely. The reason Kev is joining me today is because JP's probably on his way up from Birmingham. David Boyle, Idah. Let's talk about Idah. Right. He is an example of the speed and power we need to compete at the elite level. Midfield is lacking defensively and needs work for next season. Yeah, you've covered something that Kev and I have already discussed there, David. But what I would say there is, in terms of Adam Idah, right, he scores 2 goals, but before that, Kev, a couple of times talking about physicality, he outmuscles the Villa defender and gets the ball across the face of goal. And people are thinking, what a wasteful ball. No, we've no one in the middle. But he did well to win the ball, hold it up and get the ball across. And he did it twice before he scores the goals. Let's talk about the first goal. Adam Idah, right? The guy, I think, who has been probably lambasted a fair bit. I don't think the transfer fee, a wee bit like Engels, I don't think the transfer fee has helped him. But he scores a goal. And Taylor, who we've been critical of as well this season, does really, really well, Kev. He does really well down the left-hand side. But Hatate and the speed of thought and the weight of pass when Hatate plays Taylor in. Taylor does what you want your left winger to do, but Yang's not doing it. So Taylor does it. And the ball, brilliant ball. John McGinn, I think, gets a touch to it. But the finish by Idah, the technique's tremendous. I mean, that is a difficult ball to finish. And he does so well with it as well. And he breathes life into our challenge at that point, Kev.
John McGinn lives a dream and creates a goal for Celtic. There you go. That's something he can add on. He can add on to his CV. As you can see, again, that's us winning the ball. Great transition, quick transition, using our abilities that we've got. That ball with Hatate and Taylor doing what you want your left full back to do.
But nobody taking an extra touch. No one taking an extra touch.
That's what you want them to do. Adam Idah is where you want Adam Idah to be. In the last 14 games, he's no been there. He's no been just gone, stay in the box, Adam. Make a nuisance of yourself. You're a centre for it. You're there to score goals. Be in the edge of that 6-yard box where he is. The adjustment of the feet is great. He's not got time to think about it. If you want to end a goal drought, you do not think about it. You do not want time to think about this. You just want, not exactly like that, but you can, I mean, the ball's in there, I can't think about it, bum, back of the net.
Work on instinct.
It's instinct. It's no one-on-one with a goalie and every thought's running through his mind. Do I chip him? Do I go round him? Did I get milk? Do I need a loaf? You didn't want anything else going through your head.
Have a left iron on.
He didn't want that, and that's what he had last night. It was instinctive. If you want to end a goal drought, that's what you want. I want an instinctive finish. Superb feet. As you say before that, he's bullying their centre halves. There was one point after we went 2-0, he was on the touchline, and the ball was played into him, and he got away from the guy and played a great ball. And I went, "You're up for this, big man. You're relishing this. This is what you're for." I want to see them. See when he scored, where he scored the 2 goals. That's where he needs to be. He shouldn't be dropping deep, and he shouldn't be like. He's been trying too hard in the games that he started. I think he's not been getting involved. He's been trying to drop deep, trying to get involved. He's been trying to force the issue. Last night, he didn't need to force it when he got that first goal. Instinct into the back of the net, gets the second one, right place, right time, where you want your centre forward to be. Absolutely fuming that he's coming off.
Yeah,
absolutely fuming that he's coming off, because he's still reckons that he's got a chance left in him in that game. And he was probably right. I mean, nothing but Cummins, but we've probably been as well playing with nobody up front for the last 12 minutes. Because I think Cummins touched the ball once.
I thought we had one more chance in us at the
stage
that Idah came off.
I did. I think we had one more chance, but the subs made sure that we didn't have a chance. Really. That's for me, that's just my opinion. But Idah was fantastic. He's now our main striker, and he's got between now and the end of the season to be the number 1 pick. And for folk saying about, why do we not keep Kyogo? I think it became very clear today why the Kyogo move was seemed to have rushed through, and the Jota move was seemed to have rushed through with Rennes bulleting their manager. Because imagine they 2 moves didn't go through, and they're managerless, and a new manager comes and goes, I want to keep Jota. I didn't want Kyogo. I want to have a look at this.
Yes.
So I think we can actually see why those moves were quickly done an hour after the Young Boys game last week.
Yeah, I get it. And by the way, we'll get on to McGregor because he's getting some flack in the comments and not his best night. However, yesterday we were talking about how good he was against Young Boys in Leipzig. So I'm not prepared to write him off entirely. By the way, when Idah gets that first goal back, Kev, you've got to rewind about 4 minutes when Alistair Johnston clears one off the line. That's a certain goal. A certain goal. What a wee dink by Watkins, by the way. It was tremendous. He just dinks it past Schmeichel and it's going in. And AJ, brilliant. Clears the ball off the line.
But then again, AJ has got completely roasted to create that chance.
He's making up for it, isn't he?
He's making up for it, aye.
Absolutely, yes. And by the way, I'm just going to say another one for Lawrence at half time. We're sitting at 2 each and everybody's absolutely buzzing. Lawrence predicts 4-2 to Villa. What are you thinking about, mate? Magnet 67. Afternoon Acsom. Team, feel for Dane Murray and hope it doesn't affect him too much. Let's talk about that before we get to the second Idah goal then, right? Here's my thought process on it. You bring Dane Murray back because you know Stephen Welsh is going to Belgium. He's played well for Queen's Park, which is not Champions League, it's Championship, right? He's been through hell and back with regards to his injuries after breaking through under Ange Postecoglou against Michelangelo. Remember, he played the 2 games.
Played well.
Serious knee injuries. Brilliant. And you're thinking, excellent. You know, you want this young kid to make it. Is last night the opportunity to throw him in? And then even more so, Cummins, I've got issues with this, Kev, right? Because I think these 2 guys could well have a future at Celtic. Cummins hasn't signed a contract yet. He might leave in this window. Who knows? But we knew Johnny Kenny couldn't play in this game, regardless of what happens, regardless of selling Kyogo, and you couldn't have predicted Maiders getting a red card, etc., etc., etc. What I would say there is we've been running with 2 strikers since O left the football club, Kev, and 2 strikers were never enough. Now people might say, "But you've got Maida, right?" Maida's played about 70 or 80 minutes through the centre for Celtic in his entire career. He's played about 80 minutes, 90 minutes over 3 games playing a centre forward position for Celtic. So that's your last resort. You need 3 strikers. You always needed 3 strikers, right? So moving into this situation, with Daniel Cummins scoring all the goals, etc., right? 25 and 25 for the B team, not just at the Lowland League level, but also in the Champions League, the Youth Champions League. Why are we not giving him game time, right? Now, Johnny Kenny got a game against Ross County. We knew, right, A, Kyogo wanted to leave because Brendan Rodgers is known for months. And B, we knew that Johnny Kenny couldn't play in the Champions League. It doesn't make sense to me. We had 4 games at home from memory: St Johnstone, Motherwell, Dundee United, St Mirren, yeah? And we won them all fairly convincingly, Kev. 25, 30 minutes for Andy each of those games. Give Cummins a run out. Get him into the groove of playing first-team football, right? Don't throw him in against Aston Villa down there. Great for the kid. Brilliant. I've made my debut in the Champions League against Villa. But like you say, you're a rabbit in the headlights, Kev, if you've never done this before. I mean, something might have happened. Something might have dropped in front of him and the instinct might have taken over and he could have put the ball in the net. Who knows? It didn't happen last night. But I just don't think he was fully equipped for last night. And I don't know why we haven't given him a few minutes this season. Like those 4 games, they all came in a period of 3 weeks, the ones I mentioned, right? The games at home. The Ross County game is in amongst that clutch of games. Give him half an hour, give him 20 minutes. Let him get the feel for things in the first team first. Don't throw him in last night. Because you see what happens. The boy did not affect the game at all. And it's not his fault.
But here did Palmer, here did McCowan. None of them affected the game. The Cummins thing, for me, I think Rodgers was making a point last night. I think he's made a point over the last couple of weeks regarding the 2 young laddies, Kenny and Cummins. I don't think he reckons Cummins is good enough. And last night was a, look, I need a centre forward. We're running with Idah, and here that we're dropping down to Cummins or Kenny. I think Rodgers is making a point. I really do. I don't think Rodgers believes Cummins and Kenny are good enough for Celtic. And that's why we haven't seen them in the games that you've actually said. And last night he was making a point.
It could have been a very destructive point to make, at that level.
Could have been, but he's had previous of doing it. He has had previous of doing it. So I think there was a wee bit of a coded message there when he brought them on, and even the lateness of the subs as well. There was a, this is what we're down to, and I'm going to put them on, and you've got 4 days and counting. I had what was it he says a few weeks ago, he had a meeting with Dermot Desmond and Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay, is it Chris Mackay? Regarding this transfer window and the summer transfer window, and we're now 3 days for the end of it, weaker than what we were a week ago. So I think there was a wee message there last night. But to your point, I do not believe that Brendan Rodgers thinks Daniel Cummins is good enough for Celtic.
On the point of Dane Murray coming on ahead of Mike.
No, he's a unit, eh?
He
is a unit. He is
ahead of Mike
unit.
Nawrocki, who's played 9 minutes of football. It doesn't bode well for his future at football club, talking in Nawrocki here. But Dane Murray, you're right. But this is the point. He wasn't up to speed. And Cummins, there's no way you can expect that boy to be up to speed having played Lowland League football up to now. You can't expect it. So why not give him the game time? Less so Murray, because obviously we've just recalled him back from the loan deal. But who's throwing the ball at him anyway? Why are you throwing the ball at him in the box, Kev? Just small things like that. Get the ball up the park. Play that way. Then he throw the ball back into the box. I thought that was a poor move. I mean, because it was on the right hand side, I'm going to say it was Johnson. I'll need to look at the goal back. Double Nenham. Afternoon. Hope everybody's okay. And thanks for sticking with us last night. Appreciate I'm a poor substitute, he says, for PJD. But always appreciate the patience and support. Hope to see a few of you tonight. Strange talking about myself in the third person, but I was reading out your comment there, Double Denham, and you shouldn't be saying that. You weren't a substitute. You ran the show, and Rooster says you've done a grand job. I don't do the third person thing like Billy Davis, Kev. I don't refer to myself in the third person like that.
The post-match was good last night. I watched it, and like you've got Double Denham, and you've got Sean, and you've got Kevin for Budapest. Great hair and beard game going on. Fantastic. I'm jealous. I can't grow a beard, and I've not got very much hair left. So I'm really jealous of those youngins.
Hey, a good show nonetheless. Ian Corbett into the playoff round is exactly what everyone wanted this season of the Champions League, so progress is being made. Hopefully we can build on it and improve again next season. Adam Idah then scores a second goal, Kev. Rio attacked with a brilliant assist, but leading up to that, there's the wee Engels flick as well. And I'm going to bring this up, right? Because I'm going to disagree with it, and there's nothing wrong with disagreeing. Here we go. There's a comment. Here we are. It's Paul Boyle. Engels is not worth 11 million. I will ask you, Paul, if Celtic were to sell Engels before the end of the January transfer window, do you think we'd lose money on him? Because I'm going to say no. Because when we signed the player, he wasn't a full international. He hadn't played Champions League football. He has contributed within our campaign, sufficiently, I would say, for his first Champions League campaign. We would not lose money on him, Kev. So he is worth 11 million quid. He is. It's just that we're not used to paying 11 million pounds for footballers.
I don't know. I didn't really get hung up about fees. We pay, if the manager that wants them that much, we pay what it is. And you look at, is Ollie Watkins worth £70 million? No, he's no, but that's the market that's the marketplace figure for these guys. Now, I didn't believe this money exists. It's a transaction, ain't it, on a balance sheet? There's no, but I think you're right. We wouldn't lose money if we sold Engels tomorrow. We wouldn't lose money. No way would we actually lose money, because there was other teams willing to pay 10 million, 11 million euros for him as well when we were interested.
Yeah.
So that's the level. You have a look at there's guys down in England going between championship clubs for 9, 10, 11 million pounds. So look, again, we're spooked. We're spooked with transfer fees up here, because we've been told, you've only spend that. It's too much to spend that. I reckon if we're going to get, I'm going to call him Savage Garden, the Danish striker, until I learn to pronounce his name. I think we'll need to break a transfer record to get him.
It looks it.
If we want him by Monday, is it Monday?
It looks like it, Kev. Yeah.
And we could probably, the fact that we need to do that is maybe doing to bad business, because we've left it too late and we're now desperate. Yeah,
well, I think when you look at it, he's a player that we've been interested in for a while now. And
Aye.
it was a surprise in the summer that we didn't actually make moves, because in January they know they're looking at Celtic thinking, all right, they've already sold a striker. They're desperate for a striker. They're playing an 18-year-old in the Champions League. They're desperate for a striker, and they've got this playoff coming up. So they hold you to ransom, Kev, and you end up paying over the odds. Did we pay over the odds for Idah? Probably by a few million quid, actually. But we wanted the player, and he's proven his worth at the moment. And when you look at the young boy's contribution, you look at the Aston Villa contribution last night, and let's hope that he can do it again before the campaign is out, because we do have another 2 games at least. Adam, big game Idah, says Ian Corbett. Absolutely. That's right. He is a big game player. Oh, it's good to be back, says the Urban Culture. Missed this old place. Well, you're always welcome. And AR comes in to say, why is Calmack getting zero criticism again? He wasn't great again last night. I don't think he was great either. And that's fine, Kev, to say that. That's fine to say somebody's not played well, because that's what happens. Nobody has got the consistency levels where they can play 50 games a season for 12 seasons and not have a bad game. But I don't write players off based on that, because he's performed well at Champions League level this season. McGregor.
Staple Boy in the comments says it's fortnight Caden. That's how you say it. The boy's setting the big Matthias. We'll wait until
Is it no Fitzgarden? No.
Fortnight Caden. I don't know. Maybe he was talking about somebody else. Maybe I've just looked at the wrong thing. Callum McGregor. I think McGregor struggles in certain against elite teams. He does it at international level, and he's done it for Celtic for a number of years now, and he's done it for the international team for a number of years. When he's on his game, he's absolutely fantastic. When he's getting overrun, he looks lost. And you look at Scotland against Germany in the Euros, he was completely all over the shop, and he's got guys alongside him in that as well. I says right at the start, I think we've got to start looking for a successor to McGregor, and it's got to be more physical, it's got to be more athletic. But Calm's going to play a massive part for us. But his poor performance last night's not a one-off for Celtic or Scotland against better sides. And he'll admit that himself, I'm sure.
Well, when you look at the stature in terms of the physicality of the players that are coming in, you look at the team last night that we started with, I think it bodes really well. So the Celtic side, obviously, with Schmeichel in goals, Alistair Johnston at right back, I'm looking at that thinking, yeah, they're physical players. And not just physical, but they've got the technique as well. Left back, Taylor's always been an issue with the physicality, I think, and, you replace him for Kieran Tierney. Trusty and Scales in the middle is going to be, let's be honest, it's going to be Carter Vickers and Trusty, because that's the first 2 choices. So you're looking at the back 5 thinking, yeah, well, that's a strong back 5. Your midfield, Engels, McGregor and Hatate, that is unlikely to change in this transfer window anyway. And then up top, you've got Kuhn, Idah and Yang. You look at the fact that Maeda was missing last night. You add Jota into the mix. You add a big towering striker into the mix. Fitzgarden has been quoted for the last 12 months, I think. And then you're looking at that team, Kev, and it's got a wee bit more depth. Not a great deal more depth. You're still going to have a couple of youngsters on the bench. But I think we're moving in the right direction over the transfer windows that Brendan Rodgers has had a hand in, because I think the first one, you can almost write that off. The only player that came out of that was Bernardo. And then you've got Idah and Kuhn, and then you've got the summer transfer window there. Yang, what do you do with Yang? A lot of people say that we should keep him. There might be development there, loan him out. I've seen enough, personally. That's my view on it. I think I've seen enough. We might not be in a position where we can sell him yet, because we need the bodies in terms of the squad. But him and Palmer, for me, are never, ever going to reach the standard that we require. Where last night, Kev, you want them to be that player having that breakout performance. You want them to be at least pressing the Aston Villa defence when you have to press. And then you want to have a player on the bench in Palmer that you can bring on who will make an impact. He's enormous.
See, Yang's there last night, and you're going, I didn't expect nothing from him. I do not expect anything. I just hope he doesn't get overawed, and that's what you were saying. You then bring on Palmer, and what's gone through my head is that's just to keep 11 players on the pitch. I do not expect him to do anything to influence this game, because he's not good enough. or he has got the mentality, maybe he has got the ability, and you're going, he's not going to influence this game whatsoever. That is just to keep 11 guys on the park. That's all these subs were last night. I agree with you, and it's got to continue. It's really got to continue. I think Tierney's a step up. A fully fit Fire and Jota should be what we need on the left wing as well. If we're interested in another winger, that shows to me that Yang and Palmer are both out the door. I think Yang will hang around to the summer because it looks like Palmer's going to go out the door first. Numbers wise, Yang's going to hang about. And if we do sign another winger, then I would expect him to replace Yang in the pecking order. But time's running out. Time's really running out now. We're into the knockout stages. That's the European football ends tonight. So I would expect stuff to get done over the next few days. It needs to get done over the next few days.
It does. It does need to get done over the next few days, and we'll be reporting every single step of the way. One final thing tonight, I'm going to be in Glasgow again, my second home. I've got to be in Gracie's. There's a few, not many, handful of tickets left for the John Hartson night. So if you want to join us, then click on the link underneath this video, come along and see the big man. The big man indeed was at the game last night. I seen a wee tweet. He's on his way back up for Birmingham as we speak, so that he can speak not only to myself, but to the audience at Gracie's. And we'll start off with last night's game, shall we? And we'll take it from there. And I'm pretty sure he will regale you with some stories about his time at Celtic Football Club as well. He's been through a few big battles, has John, and he's always great entertainment. So come along and join us. Thanks everybody for getting involved. It's been a busy week in the world of Acsom, and we'll be back tomorrow at 12:30 as always. Thank you once again, Kev, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you very much.